is everybody? Today, we are so glad that you guys are here tuning in to hear Liza Borches. We are super excited to have her on. She is a powerhouse in automotive, the CEO of CMA Valley that has 23 stores in their group. So we are super excited to have her today. I will go ahead and bring her on board right now.
Hi.
Hey.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here with you guys.
Oh my gosh, we are so excited.
So excited. I was beyond thrilled to be able to tell Shasta that we were able to get you on the show.
Yes.
Well, Shasta, I have to say, I love your name. When I first saw it online and I was like saying it out loud, you cannot say your name without high energy. Like it just, it's just forced with your name, and I love it.
She is high energy most of the time.
Yes. Yeah.
It fits her personality.
I'm a little
perfectly.
whirlwind.
Yes, she is. Liza, if you don't mind, give our audience a quick, tell them about you, where you started, where you're at now.
Sure. I am currently leading our company, which is Carter Myers Automotive. You mentioned CMA Valley. That's actually one of our markets. We have 5 stores in the Valley market. We have a total of 7 markets in our group, each that have up to 5 stores per market. So we are going to be 100 years old next year.
Whoa,
wow. Started in 1924 with a Ford store. We now have 23 rooftops. We represent 18 brands across, as I said, 7 markets. We're in Virginia and West Virginia, and then we're opening a new Honda point in Maryland next year.
Wow. That's awesome.
So that's a little bit about us. I mentioned I'm the 4th generation and have the honor and privilege of following my father and his father and grandfather and being able to lead our company into our 100th year next year.
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
But I have to tell you real quick. Everyone's like, well, what are you guys going to do for your 100th year? Like, the last thing I want to do is focus on the last 100 years. So it's going to all be focused on everything that has happened in our company over the last 100 years that is going to propel us forward for the next 100. It has to be future focused. You know, history's great, but it's only great in what we've learned from it.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
That's a great idea. I love that so much. Congratulations. Like, that's a huge milestone.
Yeah. You don't get to see that a lot in this industry nowadays. Like, there's not a lot of companies around in the automotive world that have lasted that long.
Yeah, there are definitely a solid handful, but one of the cool things, and I'll throw this in since we're chicks in charge, we love women in automotive. We think that we were the first ever female-owned automobile dealership or group back in the late 1920s. My great aunt, her name was Elizabeth Myers, which was my name before I got married. She was selling Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance in New York City. And she was the only member of our family who had enough cash when the Depression hit to be able to invest in our company and keep it alive through the Depression and into World War II. So we can't find anything to conflict with this. We're 99% sure that we were the first female-owned dealership back in the late 1920s.
Wow.
That is amazing. That's so cool.
That's phenomenal. Having a female-owned dealership back then is really unheard of. So I'm really willing to bet that that's true.
Well, and we were told that nobody ever told Henry Ford, because Henry Ford did not appreciate women. He didn't even have female secretaries. And he probably would have shut us down if he had known that the company was owned by a female back then. So apparently my great-grandfather kept it very quiet. But she was pretty awesome. We talk about strong female leaders. We found a picture of her, and my dad couldn't figure out why she had a passport back in the late 1920s. And she actually went over to Europe and drove an ambulance in both World War I and World War II. That didn't happen back then either. So we think she was a symbol of strength that kind of kickstarted our company and influenced my great-grandfather to be able to get this company through probably one of the hardest times in our country, right? Back then.
That's wild.
Amazing.
You rarely see, it's sad to say, you rarely see that kind of work ethic nowadays, or that level of drive and determination in people anymore.
Right. That is really awesome. And it also really tells a story about why you are so involved with empowering women in the automotive industry as well, and why you're so passionate about that. That's really cool. That's awesome. So I know that something that you're really big on in your dealership is cultivating culture. Tell us a little bit about how you keep that culture high in the store, especially when you have 23 stores.
It has to all start with a really strong foundation. And of course, when you're on a podcast, I'm sorry, there's a big horn behind me, car alarm going off. It has to start with a strong foundation. It has to start from the top, but it can't live at the top. It has to live within every level within our company and across all stores. And so when we're looking for new leaders or even for new associates to join our company, we make sure that when we're recruiting and hiring, that we're asking the right questions to find people who are going to align with our core values, who are going to be culture fits as much as having the skill sets that we're looking for. And that's easy to say. We probably all say that that's what we do. But we have a woman who's in charge of recruiting, a talent acquisition specialist, Beth, and you will not find a stronger culture champion and warrior and ambassador of a company than Beth is for us. So that first touch when we're bringing people into our company is with somebody who lives and breathes the culture of CMA. So Beth is a great asset. We also have a lot of longevity across the leaders, both in our dealerships and on our CMA support team. So if you can have less turnover, obviously you're going to have people who are more aligned longer with your company. If you've got a lot of new leaders coming in, it takes time for them to really get to know the culture that you want to have live in your dealership. So I do think longevity plays a piece of it as well.
So when you're looking to hire entry-level team members, do you look for people with experience, or do you look for people who are fresh to the industry that you can train from brand new?
We definitely are looking for people fresh to the industry, which is why we need so many of the people you all are talking to every day to be sharing the stories of automotive, because we are not on the awareness of most people looking for new career paths. We've got to make sure that people know the incredible opportunities in automotive, and the more of us that are sharing our stories, the more people's radar that we're going to get on, right? So, we'll talk about a couple specific areas. On the sales side, I would say probably 90% of these sales associates that we are hiring are not from automotive. Looking for customer experience representatives, hospitality. I think that's pretty common in our industry, that those would be the industries that we're looking to bring from. But also on the technician side, I mentioned Beth Lucchese earlier. About 75% of her job is out there. She is in high schools, technical schools, community colleges, sharing the CMA story, not putting job postings up, not out there just trying to interview people. She is sharing our story. She's got career path outlines that she's sharing with people. She's hosting not only student shadow days, but parent nights in our dealership, so that parents of high schoolers can help influence them by understanding the great career paths that they can have in automotive. But sharing our stories is the most important thing that we can do, because we typically are not looking for people from automotive. We love people in automotive, and everybody who is on here today are rock stars, but we all know that we need some new ideas, new energy, and more people interested in our industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I know that something that you're really passionate about is investing in your humans at the store level and helping them propel their lives forward. What are some ways that you and your leadership team do that inside the store?
We do a lot of, I'm not even going to just call it training, a lot of development. I listen to our general managers about everything. They give me input on everything we do at CMA. The only time I don't listen to them is when they said, Liza, we're doing too much training. I don't have enough coverage. I can't send to this person, or we can't get on this Zoom. And I say, listen, figure it out. If we are not spending time helping our teams grow, they will leave.
Yeah.
It's human nature to want to be better than you were yesterday and to have something new in your brain. So a couple things. One, we have 3 critical actions that we share with our company that we expect them to do every day. And one of them is to invest in themselves personally and professionally for at least 10 minutes. That sounds like nothing, right? At least 10 minutes a day, every single associate, whether they jump on a Zoom training with us, whether they go into our CMA Academy and listen to one of the old trainings, whether they listen to a podcast like yours on their way into work to hear what's happening in automotive. Maybe they're reading a couple of pages at night, a self-development book. We do have a lending library where they can check out books on all different subjects. We might encourage them at lunchtime to go do a webinar or some sort of online training where they understood that maybe they missed something with a customer earlier that day. So we have significant number of training opportunities for our team, and we ask them to do something, a little something every single day. So that's one of the keys. We do a training the first Wednesday of every month where every single associate in the company is invited to come on live. And it's on Zoom because we're in 7 markets and 23 rooftops. And we'll have hundreds of our associates on there live, and then they can watch the recording if they're not in a position like a service advisor's desk where they could be on with us live. But we do, and that training every month has nothing to do with selling and servicing a car. It is all about topics of creating stronger teams. It's about time management. It's about motivation. It's about mindset. We will often suggest a podcast or a book that will go with that month's topic that they could be reading and being a part of throughout the month. So there are more opportunities than they probably even want to be able to invest in themselves. And we look, going back to the recruiting side, we look for people, even in their interview, are they curious? Are they showing us with their history that they are a lifelong learner? Have they taken opportunities in their past positions to learn something new, to take a class, to better themselves? We want people who are curious and who want to learn alongside with us.
Right.
That's awesome.
Well, and even with us, like with our team, we look for that as well. And we go through reading things with our leadership teams.
Well, we do book clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's, you see people develop so quickly and get to see them use those things in everyday life. And it's kind of just the greatest feeling in the world. I imagine it's how teachers feel.
Yeah.
When they get to see a student use something that they've taught them.
Yep. Probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what's really cool is when you see someone from the accounting office, someone from reconditioning, a sales associate, a parts manager, when you see people from all of these different departments learning together, that doesn't always happen in dealerships. And it's something we're really working to cultivate because so often the training is either a sales-oriented training or it's for service. And rarely do we do anything for our technicians, for accounting, for reconditioning and parts, right? It's skill set. It's do your job.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something that as we've heard people coming from outside our industry or from other dealer groups, those are departments that have not typically been invited or involved in any sort of development or training.
Well, and the greatest thing that I think about it is that it's bringing everybody in the store together, and you won't have any division between departments. A lot of times we'll hear of, angst between departments. I think we hear it the most because of who we are, but, sales and BDC constantly fighting, or sales and service sometimes, depending on, how quickly they're getting things through service to get on the lot for sales, just depending on what it is. But bringing them all together helps give a level of understanding even.
I'll tell you one of the best things that we just did. The last 2 months, we've been training our whole team on Working Genius. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Patrick Lencioni's book, The Six Areas of Working Genius. And so I think that has been incredibly beneficial to understand how people come at different problems from different perspectives and how important each part of that 6-step process is in resolving problems. And I'll tell you something funny. Most of our general managers were DTs, discernment and tenacity. They are get it done, A-type personalities. Let's act now. I want it done.
Mm-hmm.
And what I saw in our company was at the leadership level, we severely lacked in wonder and invention. And so we all just were like, here's the problem. Here's one solution. Let's get it done and move on. And we weren't giving ourselves the space to say, are we actually tackling the most important problems? Are we taking time to find the right solution and not just grabbing a solution? Right. And I found that maybe we've been relying too much on our vendor partners to bring us solutions versus taking the time within our own leadership team to asking important questions, getting the right inputs, and then figuring out who are the vendor partners that we need to help us solve the problem. We were just need them to tell us what we needed to solve the problem. So it's been enlightening the last couple of months as we've been really diving into that work.
That brings up a really good point too. I think that a lot of dealers really do depend heavily on vendors to just, make or break their success, or, we see it a lot in what we do, like because we're an outsourced BDC, like we're solely responsible for the success or failure of the internet leads.
Right.
And that's a lot of pressure. Like, don't forget, we're just getting them there for the sales team. Like, Your sales team is still responsible. The name of the book was Working Genius, correct? You said
Six Types of Working Genius by Patrick Lencioni.
Mm-hmm.
Shasta, let's dive into that for a moment, because this is something that we've been working on deeply this past year, and that is, what is a successful vendor partner relationship, and how important it is that it is a two-way relationship. And before we enter into a relationship, we both understand what our role is, what our responsibilities are, and what success looks like.
Right.
Just yesterday, I was down at our Lynchburg stores, and one of our general managers wanted to switch vendor partners for a particular part of what we do, and I won't mention any names. And so we had asked him to, we have Kyle Mountsear helped us with a 9-question evaluation that we use both to evaluate current vendor partners and any ones that we might either be terminating or adding. And our general manager, Russ Tabone down in Lynchburg, did a phenomenal job. He actually put together a whole presentation for us that answered these questions, and he had the vendor partner in the room. And we were able to put up together, what does this marriage look like? And what is each of our role and responsibility to making sure that this is successful? And I know that if we do that across the board, it's not only going to be better for our vendor partners, like what you're talking about, but it makes sure that our team understands what their responsibility is, that it's not your responsibility to make sure our leads are worked. It's our responsibility to work together, because we're both impacted if the results aren't what we're looking for.
Absolutely.
Right. And it reminds me of that clubhouse room that you and David Long had hosted a couple of weeks back that just lit so many fires, the fire your vendors, because
I was a little scared to go in that room after the way he posted it, and people like the way they were chiming in. I was like, oh, I don't know about this.
Yeah. But it was a good conversation. If the dealer is going to look at a vendor just like a vendor, you don't need to have them. If the vendor is going to act like just a vendor,
you don't need to have
and
them.
not a partner, you don't need to be one.
Right.
You don't need to be in that relationship.
You have to be able to work as a team.
Yeah, it's a partnership. It is a give and take on both sides. It is not a set it and forget it any percentage of the time.
Right. Couldn't agree more.
Absolutely. And I think that as a vendor, you have to have communication. I feel like I've heard a lot just this week alone of vendors not communicating appropriately with the dealers. And although dealers lack in that as well, communication isn't great until things are to a point where they want to cancel, or, there's no communication up until that point. Vendors have to remember that they're not there every single day. So if they are not communicating, they're irrelevant.
Yeah.
Downfalls.
Liza, I heard you on, speaking of Kyle, I heard you on the ASOTU podcast back in February, and you said, I am not a car girl. Tell us, how on earth can you be the CEO of 23 stores and not be a car girl?
Well, and you all were joking about this before, the tagline, or the I don't know what they call it at ASOTU, but love people more than you love cars. I love this business because of the people side. I'm very boring when it comes to the car side. Our whole team knows not to ask me about product knowledge, because I will not have the answers, nor do I have the passion about that. Thankfully, we do have people on our team that are passionate about cars. I make sure that we get all the right people on the team that have that knowledge, right, and that have that passion. But for me, I think the reason I originally wasn't thinking I would ever come into the family business was I thought you had to be passionate about cars to be in this industry. But it is all about the people.
Yeah.
I could be leading a company that had a completely different focus. But what I do love about cars is that cars are a really important part of people's lives.
Yes.
And they count on them. They count on transportation to get them where they want to go in life, whether it be getting their kids to school or to church or to the soccer field or to visit grandparents, whether it be to get to work, to put food on the table for your family, whether it be to travel the world. Transportation gets people where they want to go in life. So that part of cars, I love. I love that we're in a meaningful industry, that it's not going to look the same 10 and 20 years from now, but people are still going to need transportation. We might be selling and leasing flying cars. It might be a subscription service. It might be something we can't envision yet. We don't know. But people are still going to have to get where they're going in life, and it's going to have some version of transportation tied to it. So it's really fulfilling to be in an industry that impacts so many people's lives.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think that that is important as we're talking about, trying to get the younger generation to want to be a part of the automotive industry, that they know that they don't have to be a car fanatic in order to fit in here, in order to make a difference within our industry.
I think the technology that's changing, I mean, just on the electric vehicle side, and I think there's going to be other alternative fuel options and new technologies coming out. I think there's a huge opportunity to attract the next generation because transportation is evolving so much. I mean, we hear a lot about young people kind of obsessed with Tesla and electric vehicles and the technologies that are coming out. I think it's a great opportunity for us to bring people in this industry that wouldn't have considered it a generation before. So we need to really utilize this evolution of where our product is going to get some excitement in my kids and their generation around our industry.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Speaking of,
Robin, my assessment was galvanizer and enabler. And I hated that word enabler until I really studied Working Genius and understood what it meant. Now I'm very proud of it. But both of my Working Geniuses were completely focused on people.
That's funny. We didn't get to read the book or anything. Somebody actually had sent us the quiz and told us to just take it. So we have hardly any knowledge of the backside of it, but we all did take the quiz. I can't remember exactly. I'd have to look mine up and see what mine was, but
well, I'm going to send you some more information on it then after we
finish. You should. That would be awesome.
It'll help you understand it a lot better.
Yes, I would love that.
So I know, Liza, you have 2 children. Is that right?
I do.
2 girls or
boys?
Senior,
a boy who's a senior in high school and a girl who's a freshman. So they're 18 and 14.
Do you think that they will be getting into the automotive industry?
I don't know. And certainly we have put zero pressure on them. My 18-year-old is applying to engineering schools at the different colleges he's looking at. That could go automotive or it may not. He's super into science and math. And right now it doesn't look like a clear path to automotive, but he also has enjoyed when he's worked in the dealership at times, during the summer. And he asks me a lot of questions about what I do, not on the car side, more on the leadership and strategy side. So I do see a lot of interest in him from that perspective. My daughter, I mean, any of you who have 14-year-old girls would know that, I mean, who knows? I have no idea what's going on in her head. I have no idea.
Funny.
I have an 11-year-old girl and a 12-year-old boy, and even with how close they are in age, they could not be any further apart, and I still have no idea what is going on in either of their heads. So I'm right there with you.
I'm not.
Teen years. There's no preparation for teenage years, especially with girls.
Nope. Well, I have 3 girls, and I'm not looking forward to those teenage years. I have all girls.
Good luck.
I know. It'll be fun. But my 9-year-old is so interested in what we do, and she's always telling me, and she doesn't know the exact definition of what I do in my job or anything like that. So she just tells everybody, yeah, my mom works with cars all the time. And so she doesn't have a full understanding, but if you ask her, she'll be the next person to work here too.
I love it.
She's excited.
I love it. I know, and I jokingly say, teenage girls, I know that they will come through it and they're our best friends and allies. There just might be a few rough years, which we are definitely in my household.
Yes. Well, I mean, I went through a few of those rough years myself. So whenever I was that age, so I get it.
Yeah, we all did.
Liza, what do you think that your game changer was in your career?
Well, there's a lot of ways you can define game changer. Do you mean the game changer for me personally as to why I made the decisions and to where I am now?
Yes.
So there was a moment, and it was very clear to me. I've shared this story before. When I was working on the OEM side, I was working for American Honda Motor Company. I had started in Torrance, and at this point I was up in Baltimore, Maryland is where we were living. And I was calling on Honda dealers and loved Honda. I thought I was going to be the first female CEO of American Honda Motor Company, even though there had never been one that wasn't Japanese, and there certainly had never been a female. But that was my aspiration. And I had a moment where I spent 3 days with a dealer group up in Maryland. They were doing a leadership development training for 3 days with all of their general managers. And I was in my, I guess, just past my mid-20s. And it was the first time I had really been exposed to leadership development. And I sat in this room with all these GMs who left after 3 days with plans on how they were going to be pouring into their team and how they were going to get back to their communities and how they were going to be setting records. And there was so much excitement and energy in this room. And you could just feel the lives that were going to change because of these GMs and what they had learned and how passionate they were to go back to their stores. And I was driving back to my home office by myself to go pull reports to send out to these dealers about the numbers of cars they've sold. Mm-hmm. And that is not a knock on people who do that job very well. But when we go back to what my working geniuses are, that was not inspiring to me. And it was not fulfilling me and giving me energy. And my dad had actually never talked to me about coming into the family business. It had never been a topic of discussion.
Wow.
And so I called my husband first. We were engaged at the time. I was like, I think I can do more than this. I want to do more than this. And he was very supportive. And so I called my dad. My dad had 3 dealerships at the time in Virginia. And I said, Dad, I would love to come talk to you and explore what it would look like to come on the retail side of the industry. I really didn't want to come back and just be the dealer's daughter. And I'd seen that fail on all of the Honda dealerships. Not fail, I just had seen challenges with it. And that's not who I wanted to be. So my dad said, there's a little Volvo dealership here in town and the gentleman's ready to retire. I think he's looking to sell. Why don't you go talk to him? So I was 28 years old, I think, 27, 28. And I went and met with this gentleman in a back booth of McDonald's. And we ended up, after 2 meetings of McDonald's, drinking black coffee, which I don't drink coffee, but I did pretend for him. We worked out a deal on a napkin for me to buy the Volvo store. And so our holding company was going to invest 80%. I was going to invest 20%. And my dad I could not have asked for a better opportunity. My dad said, just go figure it out. So I had never worked full-time in the dealership, only summers and holidays. There were 13 employees. I went in, I can remember I was 28 years old, introducing myself as the owner said, I'm selling the store to this young lady. I was the youngest person in the room, except for 2 technicians. And they're all staring at me like, oh my gosh, what is about to happen? And I didn't know anything about running a store, except that I had observed a lot of Honda dealers running stores, right? As I was out calling on them, I saw successes. I saw things that didn't work well. And all I did was get to know my team. I spent every moment the first 90 days one-on-ones and calling customers. I called every service customer the day after they came in for service, asking them how their experience was, what I could learn from them, how we could do better. And so it was such a small store that I got to learn everything. I was the GM, the sales manager, the used car manager, the finance manager. I didn't have a good service manager. I was the service manager. I drove the shuttle a lot. I mean, so that's how I learned. And, but the moment for me was that day driving back in my car after going to this training of another dealer group and saying, I want to do what they do.
That's awesome.
It's a very long answer to your short question.
No, but I think that kind of goes into the next thing that I was going to say is that's also kind of what led you to going back on your word of what you had told your husband so many years prior, that you were never going to move home. You were never going to be a part of the family business. Mm-hmm. And then there you were.
Right.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. And we wouldn't have it any other way, but I don't think that I could have envisioned 20 years ago how different our industry would look, our company would look, our family would look. But if I could have scripted it, I certainly would have taken it to where we are today. So now the goal is, how do we script to the future and continue this evolution?
Wow.
I was going to ask about that. Is the plan? I mean, you've already taken it from 3 to 23. Mm-hmm. You know, how big are you wanting to go?
You know, a lot of people ask that question. I don't think it's about how big do we want to be. It's how do we make sure that we're growing in a way that is relevant, keeps our company relevant in the eyes of our manufacturers, our customers, our communities, offers the right career paths to our associates so that when we have people ready to grow and have ownership in their own store, that we have opportunities for them. We don't want to grow just for growth's sake. Right. And honestly, we're in an environment right now where I was just meeting with my CFO and COO, and we're going to be creating our next 3-year strategic plan over the next 4 months and getting input from our general managers and executive managers, all of our key team leaders, from training to accounting to marketing, real estate, IT, a lot of our vendor partners we're going to be including in this process to make sure that we can really create a plan that doesn't mean you have to stick to a plan day by day, but that you have the right vision for what growth needs to look like so that we can have a guideline to make smart decisions over the next couple of years. There's been so much acquisition opportunity, more that we've said no to than yes to. We've always had a good clarity around what we're looking for. Dealer groups that are culturally aligned with us in the size markets that we think our culture and foundation can be super successful in, which is more of a medium-sized market.
Mm-hmm.
We're not looking to go into the Washington, D.C. metro or a market such as that, because we like to be in communities where people and relationships matter. And for us, that's the medium-sized community, big enough to support a good-sized dealership, but small enough that we have relationships.
Right.
Perfect.
So that's our plan. We're working on the next couple of years of development right now, and I want to have as many voices in that as possible. In fact, some of the dealers who are watching this right now, I might be calling you to get some of your input, because I want to hear from a lot of diverse minds so that we can make great decisions.
Is your leadership team a part of EOS?
Of what?
Of EOS?
It's interesting that you ask. We do use that model to lay out our 3-year, our 1-year, our quarterly rocks. So yes, we do use that model, and most of our leadership team has read Traction. We've read a couple of the other books that take it further down on the team. And my COO and I were really, it made us realize that we were overlapping duties between visionary and taking action. And so it's helped us make sure that we're defining our roles a little bit better to best serve the company.
I love that.
I love that.
EOS has helped us so much. We implemented it amazingly right before COVID.
Yeah.
I think just a few
3 years
short
ago.
months before COVID happened, and it carried us through. It helped us gather a plan through it, and I swear I don't know where we would be without it.
No, I think
being
I
that
have
short.
mine in front of me, or it's sitting on my desk right over there. I could show you our one pager.
Yes,
I love that.
definitely think that EOS helped us stay afloat during COVID for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Liza, what piece of advice would you give not only just the younger women that are wanting to get into the automotive industry, but anybody for that matter?
I think having a career where you understand your purpose and that you feel you're having impact is certainly what I think everyone's looking for, but in particular, the next generation. And if we can help share stories so that the next generation understands the fingerprints that they can leave on this world and people around them and communities by coming into the auto industry, we can attract exponentially more people to the auto industry. So everybody who's watching, the more we share our story, not how many cars we sold today, but how many lives did we move forward by creating relationships, asking good questions, finding what the transportation needs are, whether it be buying, leasing, or servicing and keeping a vehicle on the road. When we can help the next generation see that they can have a lasting legacy in our industry better than almost any other industry out there, that's what we need to do. So my advice would be to the next generation: find an industry where you can make an impact on people's lives. You'll wake up fulfilled in the morning, and the auto industry is certainly the best place to do it.
Exactly. Which conferences will you be at through the remainder of this year?
That's a great question. There are so many wonderful conferences. I have to say, I wish I could go to 10 more than I actually am. We have a ton of OEM meetings during the month of September, which sometimes takes me away from conferences that I want to be there for. I will be at a SODU at the end of September. I think I leave straight from there to go to a Honda meeting in Chicago. In October, that's another OEM meeting. And then I'm going to 800% Club, their October meeting. We've got a couple people going to Business Bourbon and Cigars, I think, which is mid-September. In November, I'll be going up to S&P Mobility, their S&P Global, their Mobility Council Conference in New York. And I know that takes me through November 8th. I can't think of my calendar beyond that at the moment.
Oh, Robin.
So Jess says, what Jess will forget to ask, and I want to know, I know you are a runner. What are your favorite running shoes?
She did ask me to ask her like 2 or 3 days ago.
Robin, I run in Brooks running shoes. I have no idea beyond just the make, because I've been running in the same ones, and I have a great relationship with our local running store, and I just go in and they give me my shoes. In fact, they're delivering some to my house today because, and I shouldn't even say this out loud because it may not happen. I think I'm going to run the Chicago Marathon on October 8th. And I need to get a new pair of shoes right now in order for them to be broken in enough for the marathon.
Yep.
But I'm still not 100% committed. I'm training for it. I think I'm going to make it happen, but we got a lot of moving parts in our family schedule right now. But I'm up to 19 miles and I'll be prepared for it whether I run it or not.
Awesome.
To do everything you do and
I
train
know.
for a marathon, oh my gosh.
I'm excited. It's my mental time when I'm out running. But the logistics of getting to Chicago and running and getting back and we have an event that Friday night for an EV event here locally that I need to be there for. And then my son has a college visit on Monday right after it. And so I'm just trying to figure out if I can like fit it all in.
Yeah, you might actually be Superwoman.
That's what I was about to say.
I don't know about that, but I'm hoping that I will. I've only run New York City Marathon, so Chicago would be great. So if anyone's listening and you're running Chicago or you're going to be in Chicago, let me know. It might incentivize me to figure out how to get there.
There you go.
Liza, where can people reach you at?
I would love for all of you to connect with me. They can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all under Liza Myers Borches. I'm very easy to find. Or Clubhouse, although I really only go to the All Things Used Cars on Fridays, All Things Fixed Stops on Mondays, and I do watch Glenn Lundy at 5:30 a.m., but usually on Facebook, not on Clubhouse.
Yeah.
So they can find me everywhere, and I would love to connect with more rock stars in our industry.
Well, Liza, we appreciate you coming on the show so much. It has been a pleasure to have you here. You are truly an inspiration and an amazing leader. And we are so excited that you are a part of this amazing industry for the ladies like Shasta and I to look up to as we grow and learn and evolve ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So without further ado, in a world where you can be anything, remember to be kind. So when you go out into the world this week, remember to light it up. I'm Jess.
I'm Shasta.
And this is Liza, and we have been the Chicks in Charge.
And I hope they all come join your Facebook group.
Yes, yes.
Chicks in the Carpus.